Have you ever had a relationship just end and you're left completely blindsided, wondering what on earth just happened? Well, what if there was a way to actually map the entire life cycle of a connection to see all the hidden patterns? Today, we are diving deep into the AXQ Relational Timeline Doctrine. So let's kick things off with a pretty bold claim. This doctrine completely rejects that whole idea of a sudden, out-of-the-blue breakup. Instead, it argues that relationships unravel through a series of small, easy-to-miss warning signs that pile up over time. Okay, so if it's not some big, sudden explosion, then what's the real story? What's actually happening when our connections fall apart? The answer, it turns out, requires us to completely shift how we look at relationships, not as these big mysteries, but as processes we can actually understand. And this isn't just about romance. The AXQ doctrine is what's called a temporal diagnostic map. Just think of it like a tool you can use to track the flow of energy in any connection over time. It works for friendships, business partnerships, you name it. The whole idea revolves around something called the relational threadline scan. So imagine every connection you have is like a single thread. This framework lets you zoom in and really examine that thread. You can check its strength, its tension, and see if there are any little frayed spots long before it ever has a chance to snap. So how does a scan like that actually work? Well, it breaks down every single relationship into 5 distinct and, predictable phases. Getting a grip on these phases is really the key to seeing the whole picture. So let's walk through them. Everything, and I mean everything, starts with the contact phase. This is that first spark, that moment a brand new relational thread pops into your life. It's the beginning of a new story. What's really key here are the signals. What's the initial attraction? Are you drawn to their mind, their values? Or, and be honest, are you maybe falling into a pattern of trying to rescue them? The doctrine has a big warning here. Jumping into a fast attachment without any real-world context, well, that creates a really unstable foundation right from the get-go. All right, next up is the calibration phase. So after that initial spark, you start to, test the waters. You're testing the connection's resonance. This is where you figure out if you actually have a shared rhythm and if this bond has what it takes to survive beyond that first exciting moment. The word to remember here is balance. Is one person consistently doing all the heavy lifting? Always initiating contact, always trying to sustain the conversation? This is where an asymmetrical bond starts to form, where one person gets way more invested than the other, and that creates this inherent instability. Phase 3 is investment. This is where it gets real. Both people start putting actual resources into the relationship. And I'm not just talking about feelings. We're talking concrete things: time, travel, emotional support, and even introducing each other to friends and family. And the takeaway here is so simple, but it's incredibly powerful. One-sided investment is basically a recipe for future resentment. If you look around and realize you're the only one giving, that's not a partnership, it's a drain. And now we come to the most critical phase of all: strain and testing. It's called the fracture window. This is when the relationship gets put under pressure from the inside and the outside. Now, this isn't a bad thing. In fact, it's probably the most valuable phase because this is when a connection's true strength and true character is finally revealed. So you've got to pay really close attention here. How does someone act when they're under pressure? When life gets hard? When jealousy pops up? When there's a fight about money? That reveals their true character way more than how they act when things are easy and fun. This is when you see the real person and the real partnership for what it truly is. And finally, after the test, you get to the resolution. Based on everything that was revealed during that strain phase, a decision has to be made. Does this connection get deeper and stronger, or is it time to intentionally let it go? The outcomes here can be anything from a clear, solid commitment to a clean, healthy break. But the doctrine is crystal clear on this. If a relationship gets stuck here, just spinning in a cycle of uncertainty and emotional exhaustion, it is just not ready to become a lasting bond. Okay, so that's all the theory. But how do we actually apply this map to our own lives? Well, the AXQ system gives us some really helpful visual tools to do just that. First, we have the wheel of relational motion. And notice, it's a circle, not a straight line, because these phases can be cyclical. The colors give you a quick read. Amber is that warning sign during the strain phase, and silver represents closure at the end. But what's really crucial is that you can choose to step off this wheel at any point. You're never trapped. And then there's this life book page, which is a way to really personalize the whole framework. It's basically a mirror for self-honesty. By just pausing and answering these simple but pretty profound questions, you can analyze any relationship, past or present, and understand its true dynamics and what it was really there to teach you. So, theory and tools are great, but let's see this thing in action. The story of a couple named Jeru and Sarah is a perfect case study for how this map actually works in the real world. So their journey follows these 5 phases perfectly. They had this magnetic start, but it quickly led to an uneven rhythm during calibration. Sarah's early emotional investment created that exact asymmetrical bond we talked about, and then boom, the strain phase hit, and it forced all these unspoken needs and insecurities right out into the open. And this was their turning point. I mean, the pressure from the strain phase could have easily just broken them apart. That's the path of rupture. But instead, they chose dialogue. They made a conscious choice to face the uncomfortable truths that the pressure was showing them. And here it is. This is the key takeaway from their entire story. Their relationship made it, not because it was perfect, but because they had the courage to name the strain, to actually talk about the imbalance, the jealousy, the fear, instead of just pretending it wasn't there and hoping it would go away. So what's the ultimate point of all of this? It's not about avoiding pain or becoming some kind of expert at judging your past relationships. It's about learning from every single connection we have so we can move forward with more awareness. And we're going to end with this really powerful message from the doctrine. This knowledge isn't meant to make you jaded or closed off. It's meant to make you wiser so that you can walk into your next connection with more clarity, more honesty, and a much deeper understanding of yourself.